Sorry, Michael. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Durham Conservation Commission meeting of Thursday, May 10th, 2018. We will start with a roll call, starting with
Michael Barron, Town Planner.
Walter Rouse, newly appointed.
Colleen Fierst.
Andrew Coro, and there are currently 4 members that will not be able to be here this evening. Bart McDonough, Michael Morneau, John Naturally, and Nathaniel Mattern.
And Jake Kritzer, we haven't heard about, we don't know about him yet.
Paul Rasmussen, Planning Board Rep.
Ellen Snyder, Land Stewardship Coordinator.
Okay, and a welcome to Walter as a new member of the Conservation Commission. Thank you for volunteering. And Mr. Paul Rasmussen, newly appointed last evening as the Planning Board representative. So approval of agenda. I think we have, Ms. Snyder had sent out an email. There are 2 funding issues that were submitted, and we will add those under land stewardship presentation, under the land stewardship presentation subcommittee. And there was one other thing, and Michael, it may not need to be put under other business, but the comments on 44 Colony Cove, if necessary.
Right.
We'll add that under new business. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Agenda's approved. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point is public comment. If anyone would like to come to the podium and make any comments to the commission. And seeing none? Well, actually, I'm going to seat alternates. Michael, do we do that similar to the planning board?
Right.
Okay, so Walter, you'll be a voting member this evening, even though you just voted for the...
Okay.
Okay, on to approval of minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to... Can we, I think there's only, because I wasn't here for the first 2 sets of minutes.
You don't need the full quorum to vote on minutes.
Okay. Okay, did everyone have an opportunity to look at the 3 sets of minutes? February 8th, March 8th, and April 12th? And does anyone have any substantive changes to those minutes? If there are any issues with grammatics, et cetera, we can send those to Barbara via email. Did anyone have an opportunity to review all those?
I found
That's right, there's, we do have one change to, what month is that?
the April 12th meeting minutes. You took a vote on expending $192.70 for a map for the Oyster River Forest. And it was written as $197.50, but according to the tape, you actually said $192.70, which is correct. So that would just be a correction of the minutes.
Okay.
So it should say $192.70.
So do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of February 8th, 2018? This is odd for me.
Yeah, no,
because
it's okay.
I
You
think Colleen
either-
is the only one that was probably
Right.
here.
You do not need a regular quorum to vote for minutes, so you have the option of having only one person, whoever was there, or others, even if you were not there, if you prefer to have more votes, you can vote even if you weren't there at the meeting. Really just deferring to those who were.
I think,
But you
Does that
probably
make
need at least 2 to second the motion.
right.
So do we have 2 people?
I will,
Anybody can second the motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of all 3 meetings.
okay.
I'll second that.
And with the caveat that April 12th has that one correction.
1 correction.
Okay, and seconded by all? All in favor? I'll vote, even though I was only there for April 12th, but there was no substantive changes on the meeting minutes of February 8th or March 8th.
May I abstain?
Yes, sir. So, 1, 2, 3. So, meeting minutes pass, 301. Item number 6, old business, discussion regarding possible changing date for the regular monthly meeting. I think we're gonna postpone this until next meeting because there were a number of emails, I think both Michael Morneau and John Naturally, because of their travel schedule with work, would like or prefer Monday. They think they can be here. Monday is a very difficult day because I know I can't be here on the 1st and 3rd because we'll be in town council. I had spoken to Jenny Berry, the admin assistant upstairs, and I believe the 3rd Monday, no, maybe it was the 4th Monday was available. But I think that's something we're gonna have to discuss next month because there are not enough folks here to discuss it. So we will table that until next month. Item number 7, new business. 18 Deer Meadow Road, replacement of pier and float. This is a replacement of 4-foot by 120-foot fixed wood pier and float that were damaged by ice. NHDES permit by notification. Virginia Beckett Revocable Trust property owner. Stephen Riker, Ambit Engineering agent. This is map 23, lot
You've seen the-
17.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, I'm just passing these out. You've seen them, you don't really need them, but just in case you want to have something for reference.
Michael, I never got a packet for tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
didn't get it back.
It was sent out via email.
Yeah,
If,
but
For some reason, I didn't.
that was before Paul was designated.
no, I know, Paul, yeah, you,
How would you want one?
Great, thank you. I'm Steve Riker from Ambit Engineering, representing the Virginia J. Beckett Revocable Trust, property owned at 18 Deer Meadow Road. This is a DES permit by notification application. What the permit by notification really means is that for certain project types in New Hampshire are allowed to fall under this permit category. If the applicants can gain Conservation Commission signage on the application itself before it's sent to NHDES, it is afforded a 10-day review period instead of a 30-day review period. Typically, those projects are repair-in-kind type projects, such as a tidal dock. This lot has a single-family residence on it. It also has this tidal dock as well. The dock consists of a 5 by 24 foot access ramp, which will be replaced. A 100 by 5 fixed pier, which will be replaced. That is the pier, the decking, and the piles. The 3 by 20 gangway associated with the structure will remain. And the roughly 24 by 12 foot float will also remain. The gangway and float are seasonal structures. That means they're removed during the non-boating season. There are two piles that secure the float. One of those piles has been broken or moved by ice. There's a photo log in the packet that you have that shows that crooked pile sticking out of the water. That pile will be removed and replaced with a new pile that is straight. Pretty straightforward project from a construction standpoint. All work is done from the water side, utilizing a crane barge. Crane barge comes in at high tide, anchors. The substructure itself most of it is built off-site, and it's mobilized to the site via the crane barge. And the crane actually lowers it into place after the piles are driven. There's no need for any sediment and erosion control measures. These types of projects typically take 3 or 4 days with the barge on site. And after work is complete, the barge pulls up and heads out and off to do the next one. Riverside and Pickering Marine is the marine contractor who will be doing the work. They're a very reputable, very well-known, long-standing business in the seacoast of installing and repairing tidal docks. Basically, in your packet is the actual application that will be sent to DES. There's a variety of maps, photos, tax maps, abutters letters. All those things should be in the packet. And with that, I'll take any questions about the application or the plans. Anything else?
Commission members, any questions?
Where is it located again?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Maybe I didn't say that. 18 Deer Meadow Road.
What body of water?
Oh, it's, well, it's, technically it would be the Oyster River.
Okay. And, just trying to get the address.
It's 18 Deer Meadow. And keep in mind, this is a replacement pier.
Right.
So
Are these
There's an
pictures
existing
of
structure.
the existing or the existing pier?
I'm sorry?
The pictures in your packet, are these?
Are the existing, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, so the top of it's in pretty good shape, but if you flip the page there, you can see I tried to take some photos of the piles.
I see those.
The piles are pretty, they get worn over time and they get skinnier and skinnier. If you also look at the plan, you can see there's some twisting of the piles. These plans are the result of survey location, so that they're extremely accurate, and you can see how the piles necessarily aren't square to the pier on the plan. That's just due to time and age, and they've moved a little bit. Time to be replaced.
Steve, can you explain how the permit by notification works?
Sure. So on my end, it's I just need I'm asking for a Conservation Commission signature on the application. If DES receives the application with the signature, the applicant is afforded a 10-day review period instead of a typical 30-day review period.
And I believe we did 2 permits by notification last month as well.
So, I see is this the dock here?
That is it.
Okay. Got it. I'm familiar with that location. It looks fine from my viewpoint.
Another question?
Yes, sir.
So you're replacing an existing one. How long has that been in place? And if you were doing a new one, would it meet different standards? Or, in other words, does the old one meet current regulations?
Great question. First part, how long has it been there? I believe when I looked at some aerial photos, somewhere in the mid-'80s is when it appeared on aerial photos. Answer to your second question, would it meet current standards? No. Current standards for a tidal dock for residential use, they only allow 4 foot wide. This is a 5. So
That looks nice and
this was
large.
built prior to the 4 foot regulation going into place. DES does allow grandfathered structures to be replaced in kind, so it can be replaced at 5 feet.
So that's the only difference.
That's the only difference. Yep.
Any
The
addi-
length of that dock again, the pier going out to the end is,
Yep, so the access ramp is 24 feet. The actual fixed pier itself is 100.
100 feet, yes.
And then the gangway is 20, and the float is 24 by 12, although the float's oriented so that the 12 would be your length, and we actually have some gangway overhang on the float. It looks to be about 5 or 6 feet of overhang, which is pretty standard.
Michael, you signed the notice, the permit by notice, or the application, okay. So any additional questions on this particular application? If none, I will actually move that the Conservation Commission endorse the 18 Deer Meadow Road replacement of pier and float, and authorize the town planner, Michael Barrett, to sign whatever he needs to sign. All in favor? Okay, item B. 283 Durham Point Road, replacement of float piles. Replacement of piles that were damaged by ice. NHDES permit by notification. Regis Miller Trust, property owner. Stephen Riker, Ambit Engineering, agent. This is map 20, lot 15.
Is this in the same packet?
It's, well, I have it on my, I've got it on my deal
I
here.
thought this was all,
It's a very similar packet, the application, it's the same.
So what is the address again?
It's 283 Durham Point Road.
Excellent. Steve Riker again, Amba Engineering. Representing the Regis C. Miller Revocable Trust, property located at 283 Durham Point Road. Somewhat similar to the last project, although much less work required here. There's an existing aluminum frame with plastic decking type docking structure on this property. This dock was permitted in 1988. Consists of, like I said, this aluminum frame decking, aluminum frame with a plastic decking, sort of pier. Quite small in nature, doesn't extend out very far from the uplands. Attached to that is a 3x30 aluminum gangway. That's a seasonal structure removed during the winter, to a 4x8 float, which is also removed during the winter. There are two piles. They're both steel piles in this case. Two steel piles were installed to secure this float, and both of those piles were pulled out of the substrate by ice. This winter was extremely tough on tidal docks. A lot of ice flow as well as a lot of ice formation. What happens is the ice forms, it sticks to the pile, the tide comes in, the ice goes up, and it takes the pile with it and just pulls it out of the substrate. So this proposal is to essentially replace those two piles so that this gentleman can install his float for the boating season, and it'll be secured by those piles. Construction, sorry.
I was just not quite sure which dock we're looking at here from your map,
Sure. Do you want me to come around and?
if you could. Because this is where the address is.
Yeah, I did
Is
the
it-
same thing when I Googled it. It took me much further northwest, so the dock is gonna be,
In here? Yeah, near
Way
the
to-
islands,
you got it.
right here somewhere?
Keep going. It is right there.
Okay, and the brick house is where
The brick house on Langley Farm?
the brick house for the, the wires, the
the cable
electrical,
crossing.
yeah.
Oh, good question. I don't know, I'm not familiar with that, but that is the location, that point there.
Okay, so it's beyond the islands,
Yes.
and which one of these docks is it?
I'm sorry.
This dock?
It's that dock.
That dock?
I've got the points confused.
Huh.
Yep.
Okay, that's a little dock.
That's it. Construction method, very similar to the last project. Piles will be driven by a crane barge. No need for any erosion sediment controls. Crane barge comes in, drives the piles. In this case, we're talking about probably a half a day of work. It's going to take longer for the barge to get there than it will to actually drive the piles. So, pretty small project in terms of time. With that, I'll answer any questions. More questions?
So it's a high tide dock, basically,
It is.
because it's right in the mud flat.
Yeah, this discussion has spurred the applicant to think about a larger structure in the future.
Any additional questions?
Well, just out of curiosity, do pine ceiling not adhering to it, or
It's a great question. So what they can do in this case, either around the steel or around the wood, they can put a PVC sleeve around it. That helps the ice from sticking to either the wood or the steel. The PVC is a little slipperier, I guess. Ice doesn't adhere to it as easily, so they can put a sleeve around. And now that I've mentioned it, if you drive around and you look at some docks, you'll see some are sleeved.
Pay more easily?
Yeah, just, when the tide comes in and that ice goes up with the tide, it doesn't stick to the pile and pull the pile out. It is able to slide over the PVC and move up and down with the tide and not affect the pile.
Isn't PVC kind of, might be subject to abrasion, ice abrasion?
Yep. Yes. It would be. So would the pile. So I think it's a sort of a catch-22.
Uh-huh.
They try to put them on. Hopefully they work for a couple of years. They probably need to be replaced regularly.
Okay.
It's a battle. Having a tidal dock is a
Yeah, I know, I've seen
constant
them.
battle of maintenance and crossing your fingers and
That's why you've been here 3 days in a row, right?
it's definitely keeping me busy this spring. With this winter was super difficult. Obviously, this docks all over the seacoast got destroyed.
Any additional questions? Well, I will move that the Conservation Commission endorse the replacement of float piles at 283 Durham Point Road and authorize the town planner, Michael Barrett, to sign said application.
I second it.
All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Riker. Until next time.
Yes.
Item 7C. Oh, we'll give you some time. Okay, item 7C under new business, 50 Langley Road, replacement of septic system. NHDES wetland permit for replacement of septic tank for 3-bedroom seasonal cabin. Langley Real Estate LLC property owner, First Ranger LLC applicant. Mike Sievert, MJS Engineering engineer. This is map 12, lot 13-1. Good evening, Mr. Sievert. Long time no see.
Good evening, I'm Mike Sievert with MJS Engineering, representing originally the Langleys, who owned the property for many, many years, and now it's been sold to the other name that you just mentioned, First Ranger. And this is an expedited minimum impact project, so probably similar to that. I'm looking for a signature from the Conservation Commission this evening. I'm going to expedite the permit, and I need the signature prior to filing that application with the DES, and that's why I'm here. The reason it's an expedited permit is it's such a small disturbed area. It's about 722 square feet. It has to be under 3,000 to amongst many other things it has to meet for expedited, but it meets it here. It's also not in any wetland impact. It's the 100-foot shoreland buffer impact. So I think everybody knows where the property is. It's on the road out off Durham Point Road, but it's several acre parcel, or at least 100 acres or something. There's a large conservation easement on here, owned or managed by the Nature Conservancy also. But this is the little cabin that's down by the water. This is the whole parcel in Langley Road coming in and Durham Point Road out here. So the bay is out here. The cabin is existing. There's a small septic tank now that sits right in here. And the leach field is somewhere out there, probably in the bay. But anyway, the idea is to put a new leach field in for that seasonal cabin. It's just a seasonal cabin, it's not year-round. So the disturbance is, here's the highest observable tide line. The cabin sits back about 25 feet from that. And the 100-foot tidal setback is right here. And it comes around this corner and comes this way because of the point here on the bay. It's kind of just a little small point there. So that is the hatched area, is the disturbance. We'll just remove the existing septic tank, put a new septic tank right in that same location. The pipe comes out of the cabin. There's no foundation. Comes out, will go right into the tank. And then we'll have to disturb this area to put a pump, a force main in here. There'll be a pump in the tank. And then the septic system is outside of all the setbacks, the 125 shoreline setback and the 100-foot wetland setback and so forth. So that's out up on the parcel, just inside of that conservation easement, but that's allowed in this case. So that's really about it. There's a seasonal water line that comes from a well that's way over by the house that comes across the field. Everything's drained and turned off for the winter season, and it's used mostly in the summers, but that's it.
How far back is the proposed septic system, did you say?
Well, right here is the 125-foot setback, and it goes right there. So from where the bay comes around this side, the highest observable tide line here, it's about 130 feet. And so the highest observable tide line on the tidal wetland is out here, but there's freshwater wetland that comes up in to this point right here, so that setback kicks in over here. But from this, I don't know the exact distance here, but it's much greater than 125 feet.
Okay, so at this point, where the cabin is,
Yeah.
there's a point out there, right, in the water? And the high tide line is very close to that, close to shore, as opposed to the last item we discussed.
Yeah, this is the highest observable tide line right there.
Yeah.
It goes all the way around, it comes in, and actually comes in, let's see, it does come into this little area, and then there's a freshwater wetland that picks up and rounds up in here, and this is the tidal wetland right there. So it does come into a point inside there, yep. This is kind of like a little peninsula that goes out there.
Yeah, I see that.
There's what's not shown on here, it's kind of shown right here. There's a existing kind of a woods road gravel driveway that kind of comes along. This is a big steep drop off right on this edge right here, so the driveway's up on that steep, up on top of that flat surface. Then it goes all the way back down around to the Langley Road that comes in by the houses there.
Uh-huh, yeah.
You may, go ahead, Walter.
How did you you said this is seasonal.
Yeah,
What's the septic system sized for?
3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms?
It's a 3-bedroom. Listed on the tax card is a 3-bedroom seasonal cabin. So I sized it for a 3-bedroom system. You never really want to give up much.
So are they renting out the house, or is that what the plan is, or?
No, I don't know what the plan, the property was sold to a new owner, a new entity. There's, I don't know all the restrictions, but there's pretty heavy conservation restrictions because the Nature Conservancy has purchased this big conservation easement on there. This leach field is just barely within the conservation easement, actually. So there's really limited use. There's not much expansion possibility, if any, aside from any other regulations, just from the conservation easement. But that can only be used as a seasonal cottage. From here on out, it'll never be a year-round cottage, as I understand it from that conservation, definitely.
With land- The property that had buffaloes in it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Michael, you may have septic system fail. It's old.
Old.
I mean,
Old. I don't really know where it is. You know, I didn't dig everything up. I did find the tank and so forth. It's a small tank there. And I mean, that system is probably just a pipe, a perforated pipe that's kind of goes off that tank right in that area right there. So it's within 55 feet of the tide right now.
so the replacement tank is going to be much improved.
The replacement tank will be improved. It's all sealed. It has to be sealed because it's so close down there. You know, it's just outside of the flood zone with the new. So here's the flood zone right here. It kind of comes up along there, and it's zone AE. So there is an elevation attached to that, and it does. The cabin sits up on posts, and like I said, there's no foundation under there, so any rise would go up underneath the cabin and then just go back out. But the tank is outside of the 100-year flood zone. It's in zone X, so it's just outside of it. So
So I have a question for Michael. I mean, we don't actually, and I guess this is a general question too, we don't actually do the approval. We're just sort of consenting.
Yes, we're consenting, I guess authorizing Mr. Barrett, would you sign the document? Which would then, the application would go to DES.
DES, yeah.
So I just want to know if this consent opens the door for a more permanent structure.
Oh, you mean a dwelling?
A house,
Larger
yeah.
dwelling?
A full year-round house.
You would know better than I.
No, because what you're signing is the second page of the Wetland Bureau's application. And it's really just, you have all applications for the wetland, and I might be off of numbers of days exactly, but in all applications to the Wetlands Bureau, all conservation commissions have a 30-day period to comment on the wetland application, any wetland application, including buffer zone. And you can comment in the negative, positive, or no NC, I guess, no concerns. But in this, what I'm asking for, or the way this one is an expedited. So it expedites it if I get the Conservation Commission's signature first. Then the Bureau can waive that 30-day waiting period and issue or deny the permit within 30 days of the application.
And that's because this particular project meets a certain set of criteria based
like
on,
pages of criteria.
Yes.
It barely meets it, and almost nothing does anymore, but it meets it.
Okay, the house is, according to my elevation difference between sea level
Mhm.
at 0 is about 6 feet.
Yep,
That's,
it.
and then the storm surge is, could that cause problems with the system?
With the system, I mean, I'm up outside of the flood zone, the 100-year flood zone. So I'm about 8 feet beyond that. You know, again, with the way things are going these days, that line will probably move again.
So from the house, how many feet up is it? Did you say 100 feet or so?
To the leach field?
Yeah.
Oh, to the, oh, I'm sorry, the septic tank is about.
Well, I know where, yeah, you said the septic tank
So
was
the
really,
leach field is, let's see, this is about, so. 160 feet. So the house rises, I mean, the leach field is up, so it's another, from the elevation of the house, relative, not relative to USGS data, but local benchmark, it rises 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 feet. So the leach field is 10 feet higher than the grade at the back of the house.
is it beyond the house? I mean, the big house? The leach field?
No, it's,
Are you talking
no,
about
you're
the
way down at the
Langley
corner.
house?
Yes.
You're way down at the point
Yeah.
of just
That's
the
quite a ways up.
cabin,
That's probably a quarter of a mile
Yeah.
up the road.
right.
But there are some structures there, there's like a barn and.
Oh, yeah, there's the main house and structure and the barn and the old store, apartment and all that stuff is right up here on Langley Road. That's all the way across the field, you know, up
By the
maybe
road, it's at,
2,000 feet
yeah, by
away
the
from
road, it's
this
at least a
cabin.
quarter of a mile or more.
So this cabin, oh, right here, the cabin's sitting out right here. You go all the way along this wood train, Monson Road, and the Langley building sit right here
So where's the leach at?
It's 160 feet up
from the cabin.
from the cabin.
Okay.
Little cabin, way out at the point.
All right.
Yep. Just 160 feet behind that cabin.
I'm not an engineer, but I would suggest that the replacement septic system is probably better than the existing septic system.
Yeah.
Mr. Rasmussen, you had a question?
Yeah, will this be coming to planning board after you get the DES permit?
No, no. No, just the septic approval. So it goes through, Audrey reviews it, the building inspector, and then it goes to DES, and I think I already have the septic, approval. Yep. Or I might not have it in hand because of the wetlands permit is pending, but I'm pretty sure it's approved already, so.
And just so everyone knows, on the application on Block 12, it's a Conservation Commission. It says a signature below certifies that the Municipal Conservation Commission has reviewed this application and waives its right to intervene per RSA 482A. Michael, what's that? And then believes that the application and submitted plans accurately represent the proposed project. And 3, has no obligation to permitting the proposed work.
So no. So-
It's if someone
Yeah.
would want to build a house there, do a whole other set of,
And I believe I don't have the conservation easement with me, but I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah, that whole
happen.
area is in
all in
conservation.
conservation. And the Nature Conservancy, I'm 100% sure it's the Nature Conservancy that's managing it. Because as a matter of fact, I had to send this design for approval by the Nature Conservancy to make sure that they are, and they added, there's a few notes on there about invasive species, washing your equipment so that you don't transport invasive species in and out of there and so on and so forth.
And,
Which you may have seen on there, but I don't remember the woman's name, but I did run it by all.
And Mr. Barron, I don't even think you could put a structure there. I mean, that's in the RC. I mean, if they were to raise the camp, I mean, it would be a conditional use.
You'd have to put it quite a ways back.
Yeah, and that's in conservation
Then you
land.
start to run into the conservation
Well,
site.
it couldn't,
Yeah, I think it's out.
yeah.
So what elevation will the leach field be at, grade level?
Well, it's only a local reference. I don't have it tied into to the USGS, but if
Approximately.
you're looking at your relative to the grade right almost level with the highest observable tide line, just a couple feet above that, it's probably 12 or 13 feet above the highest observable tide line.
I'm looking at the elevations, and I see the highest about 18, going about 160 feet out, but I'm not really sure
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
way.
so I'm at least 12, so it could be
Okay.
even closer
So
to
the-
18.
The
Yeah.
king tide a few years ago, I don't know if it's been updated, was around 19 feet, which is a storm plus a astronomical high tide, potentially. But like he says, it's probably better than what it is now.
Any additional questions from the commission? So I will move that the Conservation Commission endorse the replacement septic system at 50 Langley Road and authorize Mr. Barrett, the town planner, to sign Block 12 of the permit application.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Rasmussen. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thanks. I think I'm staying here.
What?
I think I'm staying here.
So you have another form for you to sign?
So item 6-7.
I won't be.
Item 7D, 27 Durham Point Road. This is a conditional use. Greg Sankoff, property owner. Mike Sievert, MJS Engineering, engineer, map 11, lot 34-1. This is 27 Durham Point Road. This includes a NHDES wetlands permit, conditional use for driveway, utilities, and accessory structures serving a new house and garage to be located within the 100-foot buffer of the Wetland Conservation Overlay District.
Pretty well by now.
Yes.
Okay, I'm Mike Sievert again. I'm representing Greg Sankoff. This is a much more involved project, and do you have other plans?
I just have the sheet. I have the
Okay.
application conditional use here.
I've got some other plans with me, and if we need to open those up to show you some more details, we can. But basically, this is a pork chop subdivision that was completed in 2002. There's 3 lots here, and this is the last undeveloped lot. There's this one, this lot right here on Durham Point Road. This is 27 Durham Point Road. This is 35, and this is 31. So there's an existing house here, an existing house here, and then this vacant lot, which is this long, narrow, peninsula-shaped piece right here. Sunnyside Drive is right here, just to orient you. And of course, Route 108, and the intersection of Route 108 and Durham Point Road is just a few hundred feet up there, so it's not very far out, Durham Point Road on your left. It's a 20-acre parcel. It's in the RC district. It has the Wetland Conservation Overlay District on it, the Shoreline Protection Overlay District on it, and a small portion of the Historic Overlay District on it, so almost everything. I've been to the Historic District Commission, and it's just this first 250 feet, believe it or not, this little sliver right here. It goes out about 250 feet that's in the Historic District, so it's this driveway. There's about 1,200 feet of frontage on the Oyster River, and this point right here looks right over the landing out here, the Durham Landing and the
Old Landing or?
Old Landing, I'm sorry, yeah,
Uh-huh.
right there. It's pretty much directly across from that. About 82 or 3 feet on frontage on Durham Point Road, again, because it was a pork chop subdivision, so it's got some limited frontage there. It is undeveloped and it needs a septic and a well and so forth. The proposal is to develop the property and build a road out or a driveway out to the point, of course, where the buildable area is. There is a large buildable area there. And if you're looking at that small map, I know it's hard to see. I do have some colors a little bit on this one, but those thin lines that you see on there are the wetland setback, the shoreland setback, 100-foot setback. This is the highest observable tide line going around here, and so this is the tidal wetlands, and at this point right here, and at this point over here, so they wrap all the way around this point. So the shoreland, the whole house area or point is within the shoreland district. That's this line right here at 250 feet back. The rest of the parcel is outside of the shoreland district. And then these are all wetlands, kind of draining down into there. So as you follow these setbacks up, you can see as this narrows up, the 100-foot wetland setback crosses each other. So the entire center of this parcel right here is all within the 100-foot.
Can you show me on my map?
Is that Google Maps?
Yeah.
It's hard to see because there's a lot of
Is
tree
it this,
cover.
or is this point? This is Route
For some
108.
reason on the phone, I can't get the
That
train.
certainly looks like it.
Yeah, it's, there's so many trees.
I was looking at this
Right
last
here.
night, so
I think.
it was on our agenda.
So this is the.
Yeah, there it is right there.
Okay.
So there's the point, I think that's it. There's
Yeah,
a,
it's
should be a
gotta be
little
it.
dock right there on the end of that.
Exactly the shape.
Yep. And where's the?
Where's
land-
Jackson's Landing?
That should be it.
It's up the
down
river.
Up there,
Yeah.
okay.
But I think you're right on the point right there. And if
Okay.
you go back out to Durham Point Road. So the proposal is to develop the parcel with one single-family home. It's about a 2,500 lineal foot driveway, and there'll be a couple barns on the property, potentially a few horses.
There is a barn, a new barn already.
There is a barn already. And yes, so this is an after-the-fact permit. I do need a wetlands permit, and that's the only permit I don't have. I also need a septic permit, a shoreline permit, an alteration of terrain permit, because the driveway is so long. There's about 138,000 square feet of disturbance on the parcel. So anything over 100,000 square feet, or actually anything over 50,000 square feet in the shoreline district triggers a alteration of terrain permit. What that means is the roadway collection and stormwater treatment system is raised to a higher level and higher standard than what the town would normally require. So I do have that permit already, and then I have the septic permit and I have the shoreline permit. I don't have the wetlands permit, which was just submitted last week. And the difference between that permit is it's not an expedited, because it's an after-the-fact permit, because it's already built and already filled. And so you have 30 days to respond to that or not. And I'm here this evening, so we're really early in the process, so you can take a look at that.
So how much fill, how many truckloads of fill are we looking at you having to,
For the whole parcel or just for the wetland impact?
for the wetland impact?
So the wetland impact is amazingly small. It's just this little tip right here at the entrance. And again, I have larger plans if we want to look at it a little bit better. But there's this little tip right here that came up into where the driveway goes through. And right here, it goes all the way across the 38 feet of frontage right here. And it's part of the drainage system, so I had to cross that to get in and then hit that. Everywhere else is outside of it. So the wetlands permit part of this is actually very small. It's just the fact is it's an after-the-fact permit because it's already been done. The reason it's already been constructed is the owner bought the property and wanted to do a timber harvesting and forest plan out there that he put in. So he went and got a wetland permit for timber access, and that's how the road got put in. There was an old woods road out here. It even came down this way. I don't know how old this one was, but this one, I believe, at one point this was all of the Sawyer farm. And there's some old well houses here and a pond with a pretty decent sized dam right there. And there's, was a little overhead electrical line going down here that's kind of defunct now. But there was an access that came in through here several years ago. So he put that road in to gain access for timber. And this area where this barn is already constructed was one of the laydown areas. And then there's another one that I don't really have shown right here, but that he's since expanded out and he's using for material storage right now. There's another one over there which we can add on to the plan, but that's the reason it's in right now. He went forward and put in the remainder of the road because he was working towards going for permits and everything, and then ended up needing all these other permits, and so everything has come to a halt right now. He did build this barn. It is way outside of the shoreland permit. It doesn't need a septic system or anything. He did get a building permit for that, and that barn is in place right now, just really not being used necessarily right now, but just it is there, and it's part of the overall piece. Part of the reason the driveway is over here, there's a common access point that was approved when this whole subdivision was approved. But this would be the fourth property that accesses from this common access point, which it's just getting cumbersome to come up through there. There's a really two sharp turns and an 18% grade that comes up this driveway right here. And then once you get up on top of the hill here, you gotta come back down the hill for another 16 to 18% grade down here. So this is almost a flat area. I mean, there is a slope there, of course, but it's a fairly level area coming in there, and it much better for emergency vehicles, definitely. Horse trailers, which he'll have a few horses out there, which I'm gonna get the real answer to the number, but that's part of the reason for moving the driveway out there, is to get off of that common access and come in on the side there.
Did you say how long that driveway is from?
About 20, almost 2,500 feet.
It's like a half a mile.
Wow.
It's a lot of cut and fill.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a conditional use permit. The majority of the driveway, so just a couple other numbers. It's 2,500 plus or minus lineal feet. There's about 138,000 square feet of disturbance for the whole project, all the driveways. the barns, the house, and everything. The total disturbance in the shoreland district, so from here down, is about 60,000 square feet, a little over 60,000. The total wetland disturbance is 1,536 square feet. And the wetland buffer impact, so the impacts pretty much start right here from the wetland buffer, and they go all the way to about right there. And then the shoreland picks up, and there's a little bit of shoreland, and then it goes, and it's kind of inside and free of any buffers, but a good 1,600 lineal feet of the roadway is within the wetland buffer impact. And that's about 70,000 square feet. So this project requires the conditional use permit for wetland and shoreland impacts, and also the wetlands. I think I've covered everything.
So, this is pretty significant application, as Mr. Barrett had pointed out in the email. I'm not sure if everyone has received all the emails with regards to this. And you suggested a site walk, which
Well,
I would.
and the good thing is the planning board's already scheduled
Right.
one
There's
at
a-
your next meeting.
There's a site walk scheduled for May 23rd at 4 o'clock. And I think the Conservation Commission probably should go out and take a look at the terrain.
How,
No.
how long is the walk? I mean, is it a path or is it?
Well, it's a road.
It's a
a
driveway.
road? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's an improved
Yeah.
dirt road.
Yeah.
What time?
4 o'clock
o'clock.
on the 23rd.
23rd, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we'll be able to pull in and park. We'll get everybody parked out here by this barn. It's a gravel area out there, or along the edge of the road here, depending on how many cars, but there's plenty of room to get in there. And then, it's not that far of a walk out there. We can drive out there too, if some people want to drive out there. It wouldn't be a problem to drive down there. Again, the driveway's constructed to about this location right here, so nothing is constructed from here down yet. It's just been cleared.
So it's cleared and there's a path that you could walk
Yeah,
down.
and so, right, so you can either walk all the way down, and then we can walk around here. The erosion control is in. Some things are staked out. A couple of the buffers are staked out. I'll get them reflagged up so we can kind of walk around
For
them
the
and see.
planning board, are you staking out the structure as well?
Yeah, I'll get a few corners of the structures staked out down there. This one obviously is in, you can see it, and then the driveway's all in, so you can see where those are. I can point out where these other stormwater, where all the other stormwater construction is, and of course where more disturbances. There's larger plans here that show all those details, so it might be worth maybe going through those on the site, and then you'd be able to see half of it constructed right there.
So
that
how
might
many
be-
structures?
There will be 3. So
Three.
the house, this is a pool right there.
Pool.
So the house, another barn, and then this barn up here.
Mr. Barrett? So a pool, so that's, I'm assuming an in-ground pool?
Yep.
That, that applies as a fourth structure, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that would be an accessory structure within the shoreland protection district by conditional use.
Yep.
So, a technical question. The Conservation Commission has 30 days to comment. Because there are 5 weeks in May, it would actually be 34 days until the next.
So unless you
on
wanted to
June
comment
14th.
on, you could comment on the wetland application today and then hold off on the conditional use to June.
And
If
you have,
chose it.
you have time, I think. I believe if, and I can check this for you, you can, if you are going to comment on it, I believe you can get an extension beyond the 30 days. to the
And that
Wetlands
extension would actually come from you, wouldn't it? From the
Bureau. No, from the Wetlands Bureau, because again, this is a standard dredge and fill permit, so I don't have, the other one where it's expedited, I have to get that first. I want to say you can notify the Wetlands Bureau that you will be commenting, and they'll give you a little bit more time. There's a 75-day window for wetland permit turnaround, so there's no, and within that 75 days, the first 30 days is that
Okay.
period for commenting, so there's time for,
So it wouldn't eat into your timeline,
it doesn't.
construction timeline?
No, no.
Because I
no.
know you've got to, I mean, you got to get back in front of the planning board as well.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I mean, will be at the public hearing, not until June 13th because of the next
Yes,
planning
June
board meeting.
13th.
So there's a little bit of time there. I mean, the clock is ticking. I
And we
mean,
meet the next day.
yeah, so it should work out. It'll be fine. You're more than welcome to go out there. There is a gate there. You can easily go out there and park right in front of the gate and walk. You don't even have to walk to the end of that, and you can see, I mean, it's really kind of hard to see because the flags aren't really there anymore, but you'll see kind of, you can tell it's wet right here, and that's really the only disturbance right there in front of it. I can meet you out there if that's appropriate. If you wanted to take a look at the wetland impact first. I mean, again, it's already done, so there's not much to see.
Right.
I'm new at this, so forgive my questions,
Okay.
but
Yeah,
the road is there.
yeah.
The impact has been done.
That's right.
What are we talking about? I mean,
That's a good question. I mean, it's just that one spot.
It's this spot right there. That spot, I'll have to look at the other plans, I could give you the breakdown, but it's this little spot right here, and it's this small area right there.
Well, you're also asking for a conditional use for the accessory structures down on the shoreline.
Right, so, another whole piece to this is the whole conditional use. So there's a conditional use permit both for the wetland conservation and the shoreline, both of those. So that's a whole different story, that's for the planning board piece.
Oh, well,
I just-
they'll make a recommendation on that.
Yeah, exactly, but I mean, I was just saying, if you
So-
wanted to take a look at that wetland.
So there, to fully answer Mr. House, both ends of the property are under review at this point. The road has already been done.
Yeah.
But the buildings, the pools, if you look at the map, you'll see they cross the blue line,
Yeah,
which means they're inside the shoreline protection zone. So that's a conditional use, and this commission is expected to comment regarding that to the planning board.
And so the expectation is after the site walk, that hopefully you can make the site walk in 2 weeks, and that at your next meeting, that the Conservation Commission will make a recommendation to the planning board on all of the structures that are within the 100-foot wetland buffer, which is most of the driveway. And there's some utilities, there's some drainage structures. I don't know whether there's some retaining walls, some miscellaneous accessory structures. It's mostly the driveway, and most of the new driveway is within the wetland buffer. So it's the role of the Conservation Commission to review the driveway and accessory structures according to 4 environmental criteria: erosion control, impact on the wetlands, alternative locations for the driveway, restoration. So 4 basic criteria that we'll look at the next meeting. And so the Conservation Commission could recommend approval of the driveway and the other structures if you think that they meet the criteria, or you could recommend denial. And the basic approach, if something is built before it's supposed to be built without getting approval, and they ask for approval after the fact, The general rule for the body is to ignore the fact that it's already built. The applicant should neither be, in terms of your review, should neither be penalized because it's built, you look at the same criteria, nor should they be rewarded, nor should you look and say, well, the road's in place, so we're not gonna make them move it. So they should be neither rewarded nor penalized, and you will look at it objectively as though the road was not in place. And if the planning board denied it or denied a portion of it, then they would have to physically make any corrections. The advantage they have is that, and the planning board talked about this last night, there are some pretty good arguments for the new road in terms of being more workable than the shared driveway, in terms of sight distance and grades and bends in the driveway. But something for you to look at when you're on site is, was this the optimal layout for the driveway?
Well, given that this one is not really good, there's no, the constriction here and the location of the wetlands, it's pretty clear that there's no better way.
That may well be your conclusion.
By boat.
And it does follow the old Woods Road, right?
It does, and remember that, you know, even if because the planning board is kind of looking at the option of the driveways more than the Conservation Commission as far as the access points. But remember, you know, to get to the buildable area, you still have to go through that narrow section, regardless of whether you're coming in this way or coming in this way. So that it still applies to the Conservation Commission either way, really.
Right, because without that, the buildable area here
Right.
is the biggest on the lot.
Right.
And without that, there's just a tiny,
Right.
very tiny buildable area.
Right, so, there's a better plan, bigger plans with more contours on it and so forth, but just to give you you know, this is fairly flat right here. I mean, this does slope off this way, and this slopes off, of course, from this edge right here down here. This is very steep going up this way, which you'll see out there. And this is kind of a high point right here that kind of slopes radially off of here. But if you look on that plan, there's that little funny shape right there on the plan. That is the area of the majority of this 20-acre lot, with the exception of this area, that is buildable right there. So it's, you know,
Oh.
80
yeah,
square
yeah.
feet or something like that, is outside of all of the, now granted, so is this, but it's very steep right there. And then, of course, that whole area down there is
What's
outside.
the elevation of that, at the buildable area where they have it proposed?
Right down here.
Yeah.
So the grades right in this area, are, let's see, elevation 20, and then and this is tied to NGVD. So this is elevation 20, and the 20 contour is this contour right here. So this whole area is pretty
Above
flat.
20.
I mean, there might be another foot above that, maybe
Well, 20's good.
21 in here.
What's-
Then,
22,
yep,
and
that's
built
my-
up to 26.
and we're building it up. The septic is built up to 26. The basic grade on the whole area is around 23-ish, 22, 23. The house, I don't have the actual footprint, but it sets up.
Yeah,
A little bit
that
higher.
should be good.
You know, this is a real high point here. You can see the contours come, this is a pretty high point here. If this is 18, it goes down 16, 14, but then it goes back up like 16, 18, 20, 22. So that rises back up to a point right there. And then this all comes back up here. But so again, it's pretty flat there. It slopes off on each side. And then it gets higher up back here, so. And these are some of the, you know, again, because of that alteration of terrain permit and that expansive construction, these are all stormwater treatment swales, so we're collecting, you know, almost, with the exception of the first 300 or 400 feet of the road coming in, we're collecting everything else of all the impervious areas and putting them into stormwater treatment and collection systems. So,
And those are not built yet.
those are not built yet.
Is this the driveway to Katie Payne's house? Right here,
No.
this little spur?
No,
What is that?
that is Jeffrey Clark.
Is what?
Jeffrey Clark is the owner.
So there's a house,
Yep. The Payne, Katie's property is the next one down.
this,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
down.
Straight in.
Lot.
You gotta go around the corner.
Yeah, you gotta go around the corner a little bit, on Durham Point Road there, that sharp corner. And you go just a little ways down and she does come back towards this property.
okay, so this is a lot here.
That is yeah, so, there you go, right there. Yeah.
All right, so my question is,
Yep.
is this part of the road built?
Yes, that part of the road is, so there was a path there, and that's how people were getting out there when the property was on the market. And so now this current owner, has constructed that path, but it's just about a 10-foot wide gravel road to tie into that right there.
Yeah, before that road was built, it was pretty thick in there. It was very,
Very thick, and you couldn't get in there at all, and,
Okay, well, in terms of impact, there's a redundancy. I mean, is that something that maybe could be eliminated and let the trees grow back in?
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's outside of the setbacks and so forth, but yes, it could be. I was looking at it from the standpoint of, with that connection there, hopefully we're gonna get this, so, you know, we may not need that, but if that connection stayed and was maintained so that it could be used in an emergency situation, that would be a connection if there was some problem there. I don't know, you know, when you see the slopes out there and when the fire department goes out there and sees the slopes, it might not be a benefit, because they may say it's just not worth it, you know? And so that could be part of the permit process, is to, maybe you don't need, as long as you can access it from that other road, you don't technically need that other road. And that could go back to just being a dirt, you know, a path, basically. So, yeah, definitely.
I don't see, I have to see the conditional use permit. Is there a wetlands permit?
Yes.
The dredge and fill permit, is that in
I
there?
don't
Yep.
see it in here.
Yeah.
Or,
Oh, that just got submitted late last week, and
okay.
so you should have a copy in the planning office.
I just have, we got the full set of plans and the conditional use application.
Yeah, yeah. I submitted it last week, and
I think I emailed a separate
Yeah, it
piece on
may-
that. I might
Yeah, I
have sent that
sent-
separately, yeah.
I did send that
Yeah.
a full PDF to you. You asked me for a PDF.
All right, you might have
Last,
so many
I don't know,
emails.
Monday or.
Lots of paperwork.
Still catching up on my emails.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for emails coming from the planning board on this.
Well, yeah, I can look at it later.
Yep. take a look at that.
So I guess
All right.
the way ahead is to, we don't have to set a site walk because it's already been set by the planning
Yeah.
board.
Yep.
So the Conservation Commission,
What is the date on that? I got 4 o'clock, but I,
it's the May 23rd
That's right.
at 4 o'clock. And May 23rd is a Wednesday evening.
afternoon.
And do you have a planning board meeting that night? Is that the planning meeting?
It's a workshop.
Workshop, okay. So, it'll be plenty light. So I guess,
Could
the way
take it-
ahead is to continue.
Yeah.
Until the next Conservation Commission meeting is the day after the planning board meeting, which is June 14th.
Yeah. So that means you will have a public hearing on the 13th, but final action will likely be the 27th.
Got it.
Is that gonna work into the timeline? I mean, I don't know what the,
No,
it's not.
no.
Yeah,
Yes, it will. I mean, yes, I'll take
We-
it.
we aim to
Whatever I
please.
can get, I'll take it.
Considering it's already built.
There is no wetlands permit, so, I suspect, obviously, there is that other driveway access. It's not great, so to get equipment out there and begin construction, you could use that other driveway and come in that way, but again, it's tough, real tough, and so.
Is there a different criterion for a timber harvesting temporary road?
Yes. Yes, and the critical difference between wetlands permit for timber and wetlands permit for construction is timber is temporary and has to be removed and restored. And we're looking, so the premise is you get the, it's a permit by notification, which you heard earlier this evening, that same process. You can go in, and there's standards, you go in and you build a road, you put fabric down, you put all your erosion control in, and you put your timber access road in. But when you're done, you have to pull it all out and reclaim everything, and that's the nature of it. So there'd be all temporary disturbances, and that's the difference.
I saw in one piece of the packet somewhere that notices were sent to the neighbors, and there was one response.
Yes,
And it was kind of good neighborly, but there was a hint that this went in as a temporary road, and all of a sudden,
Yep.
the owner decided that it was better.
that's right. And that's the reason. I mean, once, and you'll be able to see this firsthand, that when you get in there and you drive down this road and come into that area, and then, we can either drive up or walk up the other way, and you'll clearly say, I get why he did it, whether it's right or wrong that it was done the way it was done is up to you to decide, but that's the reason, is you couldn't do timber on the property without other access,
No.
or you'd bust the, first of all, you couldn't access it. So let alone breaking the driveway all to pieces with all the heavy trucks,
Is there a
You
good turnaround point?
No.
No, I mean, it's a shared driveway.
It's a
too,
shared
with-
driveway.
with the
It's
Clarks and
it's
Jen
10
Sayers.
feet wide, very narrow. You couldn't hardly even get that curve to get a logging truck coming down an 18% grade and make this
Yeah,
turn.
that's a hill,
It would
yeah.
be tough. I'm a fire truck.
So our access point, not what I'm talking
It'll
about,
be right here.
And
That's-
then, yeah,
and that's okay to, what kind of vehicle? Like a four-wheel drive or
Oh, no.
just a
You
regular?
drive right down there with your
Okay.
car, and you can turn right around here. You can actually go here. You can drive all the way to the point and turn around.
Okay.
you can go down there. There's a fence across it though during the day.
Yeah, there's a gate.
Gate.
If you can pull in and turn around there and take a look at it, but there's a gate. It's a big construction entrance now. The reason there's a bunch of crushed gravel, there's some 1.5-inch crushed gravel there, and that's a requirement for construction, because it'll knock all the dirt off of the tires, as much as possible, so you're not tracking everything out onto the
How
road.
many acres is this site?
20
20.
acres,
So-
so. But yeah, that was the reason is, and yes, there is a, so all the abutters got notified. So the other part of this is an amendment to the original subdivision approval, which doesn't really have anything to do with the Conservation Commission, but the abutters got notified for that. Obviously, the abutters got notified in a 300-foot radius around this 20-acre parcel, which is a lot of people, because of the conditional use permit. And then they also get notified because of the wetlands permit and the shoreline permit and everything but the septic permit. And there is another requirement, again, a Wetlands Bureau requirement, that you need permission from your neighbors to fill within 20 feet of your property line or build a dock within 20 feet of your property line on a shorefront property. And that's why you saw those emails from those neighbors, because those two disturbances are within 20 feet of the property line, because the property's not very wide there. It's a requirement from the DES to have that permission or get a waiver to that. And I've notified them actually a couple months ago, and we didn't hear anything for a month and a half, and then that email came in, and so I've asked for a waiver. We'll see what happens.
A waiver from whom?
From the Wetlands Bureau to waive the 20-foot requirement for the neighbors to give permission.
Okay, any additional questions of Mr. Sievert? If not, we will see you on May 23rd at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
And then again on June 14th.
Excellent. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, item number 8 on the agenda is the Land Stewardship Subcommittee. And Ellen?
Hello. I wanted to do a couple things. I was going to tell you about a couple properties we've been doing a lot of work on, give you an update. And I also had funding requests, and then I wanted to acknowledge some volunteers. So I'll start in about the Thompson Forest, which is the 54-acre property on Wednesday Hill Road. And we've been doing a lot of work out there. Matter of fact, tomorrow and Saturday, we're doing a big shrub planting, native shrub planting with volunteers, so people are still welcome to join us. We had an Eagle Scout project last weekend where they put in 4x4 posts along the trail in the field because it's quite open, and so we're happy that they did that. I did a project with the Community Church of Durham where they did it. They built these benches. They're called Leopold benches. They're sort of rustic wooden benches that we're going to put out on the Thompson Forest, and they built those. We also have hired Bob Goodby, the archaeologist, who's going to do a Phase 1B. We want to do a little bit more archaeological survey out there just to clear one section of trail. And we're waiting for him to go out and do that work. And we had something that came up, which is one of the funding requests, which we'll deal with in a second. But if you've been on the property, it's quite open. We did a very large clearing, 15 acres. And so when you go in and park and enter the property, it's quite open. But we're starting to work on really designating where the trail is, but it's still pretty open. So people go with their dogs, which is fine, but they really need to be under control and stay on the trail from a wildlife and native plant perspective. And also, apparently, the dogs sometimes are running onto the abutting property because it's open. So I talked to Administrator Selig, and we talked about making a sign specific for dog owners, and it would be it's kind of like the one out at Wagon Hill, but not entirely the same, but essentially saying, in fact, I think I brought a couple, maybe I should pass that around, because I just wanted to see, I have a couple we could pass around, here, let me put that over there. So the idea is that to, spread out. So essentially, when you walk in, there would be a post with this sign on it. There's some information on the kiosk, but sometimes people don't read a kiosk. So this would be right there when you walk on the property to say, Attention dog owners, please keep pets under control at all times to protect wildlife and respect other visitors. Dogs must be kept on trails and out of the field to protect native plants and animals. Pick up and carry out dog waste to protect water quality. Thanks for your cooperation. So we think that this would be an important sign because there's multiple reasons why the property was protected. One is to have a recreational trail. So again, people are welcome to walk with their dogs, but we also want people to respect other people walking on the trail. It was also to create wildlife habitat and plant native plants. And so when we're just in this initial stages in particular, we need people to stay out of the areas where we're doing all the planting, including having the animals stay out, the pets stay out of those areas. And then obviously protecting water quality because it's on the Lamprey River and drinking water source. So just wonder what you thought about that, and I'll talk about the funding request all at once at the end, but just wanted to bring that up.
I think it's a good idea, and I think it should be, this type of sign should be put at other properties as well.
Yeah, I think we probably need to think about that as well.
Is it clear what under control means? Does it mean a leash, or does it mean that there's some understanding between the dog and the owner?
Yeah, well, I thought about that. The problem with saying they have to be on leashes, then you have an enforcement issue, and some people, dogs are, fine not being technically on a leash. So, since this is a new property and we haven't, people don't know about it yet, I feel like the really important part for me here is that they have to stay on the trail. And if we find over the course of this summer, and as people are out there and we're out there and we see people not doing that, then we may have to take other steps. But yeah, the idea is it's not a dog park, and people are welcome to take a walk. I have dogs. I know, yeah, it's very enjoyable to go for a walk with your dog. But at this point, I don't know. It's up to you. You can decide if you think it should say they have to be on leash. But.
Well, Michael, you may not know this, what the ordinance is. Don't dogs have to be leashed on town property? And I know that's not your
I'm not
peer
sure.
review.
Yeah.
There maybe the Wagon Hill sign specifically mentions the ordinance, but,
I guess if you don't want to go that far.
well, we can.
Right
If
now.
that's what the ordinance says, we probably should
Yeah,
state
I
that.
think and I don't know what the ordinance is or what it says,
But
but
we can I can check
I
that.
would say if it does say they need to be leashed, they
We
probably
should say
should
that.
be
Okay.
leashed, yeah.
I'll check on that. That's good. Thank you for pointing that out.
Just a grammatical thing, you might consider, it's very good, but you might consider something like consolidating, please keep pets under control on the trails and out of the field, period. And then the second one, for the purpose of protecting wildlife, respecting visitors, protecting native plants and animals.
It's good.
Just a
Just to
thought.
keep what they're supposed to do and then the
Yeah,
reasons.
you might just
Combine those.
rearrange just grammatically, but.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. So that's Thompson Forest, and again, I'll come back to the funding request in a second. And what we're hoping to do, because we're still doing a lot of work out there on the Thompson Forest, and it's gonna take all summer for it to really green up and look nice, we're thinking of a September grand opening of the trail, because a lot of people still don't know about the property, so we invite all the funding partners and people who've helped out, so keep that in mind. So the other property we're doing a lot of work on is, well, at least talking about, is Doe Farm, Bennett Road, where we have a working group that's been meeting a couple times, and where our next meeting is May 25th. And we have sort of three components there. One is the invasive control, plant control, that's been going on for a couple of years under the auspices of the trustees who've been overseeing the stewardship. And we've brought the stewardship under the umbrella of the Land Stewardship Subcommittee along with the trustees. And so we're continuing that invasive work this year. And we had a trails consultant, Lou Shelley, who's done some other work for the town. I went out with him to look at the trails and the bridges on the property because they need a fair bit of work. So he's preparing a plan for us to, recommendations for, particularly for bridges and other sort of wetland crossings, because that's really where we need some work out there. And then the historic resource folks in town, we haven't quite gotten to that yet, but Doe Farm was given by Mr. Doe, and the Historic Cemetery and Foundation are there, and there's really there's no interpretation of those features. There's not really a kiosk at the entrance to the property, so we're going to talk about those aspects as well. And hopefully after the May 25th meeting, we'll have sort of all the plans in place of what we want to do, invasives for the next few years, the trails and bridges and so forth, and then the historic interpretation. And we're going to do some major fundraising. We have the new Patrons Trust where people can donate money. So we'll both look for grants as well as private donations, because it will be a considerable amount of work and funding needed to get this work done. And did you?
I'm just clearing my
Oh,
throat.
sorry. I know you're involved in it, so I didn't know. You're on the working group. It's a beautiful property if you haven't been there, so I think this effort will be another wonderful property once we get some of the work done, so.
May I ask, what kind of invasive plants are there and how are you treating them?
So there's a lot of glossy buckthorn, and the property has been managed pretty much as like a tree farm, so forest management for trying to enhance the forest health and long-term sustainability for forestry. But there's, it's the kind of property where there's extensive glossy buckthorn in the understory, and the trustees felt, along with the forester Charlie Marino, who does a lot of the forestry work for Durham, that unless you get the buckthorn and some of the other invasives under control, they really start to suppress the regeneration and affect the health of the forest. So they hired Turf Pro 2 years ago actually, to do, what they do is they cut the invasives in the spring, so you make them much smaller, so they just resprout, and then they are using herbicide treatment in the fall. And they did look at mechanical, just herbicide, this herbicide and cut, which this is, and they looked at goats. And they got proposals from the other three. The goat herder said it wasn't feasible for many reasons, including that there's a railroad track right there, and the goats would be afraid, and you'd have to have somebody managing the goats, and it wasn't practical. And then the mechanical was expensive, and it's kind of a wet site in some ways, so it wouldn't work. So anyway, they got quotes. This was the best option, and they do have to get permits. There has to be a certified pesticide applicator. So the working group discussed it all again, and we felt this was the best way to keep going forward. So that's the plan. So that's Doe Farm.
You know, I have a lot of buckthorn, and I've cut them, and I'm puzzled, 'cause they don't seem to grow back.
Yeah, they do grow.
Yeah, they do grow. Yeah, they sprout pretty heavily, mostly. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe
You probably yell at yours.
Yeah.
Didn't the tree guy say that he was going to treat it in the spring?
No, so he'll cut again. He's
He'll
gonna
cut
cut
again.
again in the spring, and then he treats in the fall when they start to suck all the
Oh, I see,
energy
okay.
back in. That's
All
when
right.
you sort of get them. But he was and there wasn't any funding for 2017, so it's actually been 2 years. But when he went out there this spring, he said he felt good about the effect of the treatments 2 years ago. So there should be less and less and less, and then therefore less need for herbicide. And at some point, obviously, we want to not have to use anything.
I have a question regarding the map that you sent me
Yeah,
on
the
the
trail,
trails.
trails map.
How did you ascertain where the trails were?
That map was made back in like 2009,
Uh-huh.
so the trails were a little more visible, but that's where the trails were at that time.
Yeah, I looked through Google Earth in the springtime where the vegetation was the sparsest, and I couldn't make out where the trails exactly went. And I really think that what we have to do is walk with a,
Yeah, that's how those were
iPhone
made.
or
That's how
something.
that map was made with the GPS, and
yeah,
those
GPS.
trails were made, but, yeah.
Because there's some proposed loops to put in. I also, we know that we've gotten a lot of tree damage in March and just recently this past week
Mhm.
with branches coming down. And I suspect that Doe Farm got hit because I was rowing out on the Lamprey on Saturday, and there was tree after tree after tree coming down from that side.
Mm.
And at least 2 big snags came down from Doe Farm into the river. And then they kept on coming. And one snag was, it almost seemed like it was pruned. And I don't know if it was pushed in, but that's the one I hit, and I almost,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's part of the, I mean, we walked out there, the trails need a lot of work. They're growing in and,
no, I know, but I think it may have gotten worse.
yeah, I totally agree.
March and.
Yeah, it was a tough spring for trees, so, but, so that's our plan.
The challenge.
Yeah, plenty of work to do on town conservation lands. So before I get to the funding requests, I did this at the Land Stewardship Subcommittee meeting on Tuesday. We've had a lot of volunteers over the years, but in particular this spring. I just wanted to acknowledge some of them. There's been a bunch of just folks who live in town coming. We had Theta Chi Fraternity help out at Thompson Forest in April. This UNH ski team just helped out at Oyster River Forest doing some trail clearing. I mentioned the Eagle Scouts. We've had 2 Eagle Scouts help on projects. Tomorrow we're having Serve with Liberty, which is Liberty Mutual, help out at the Thompson Forest. And I also wanted to acknowledge the Department of Public Works, who've been very helpful on a number of projects. And 2 people in particular I wanted to acknowledge. One is Mullen Clyde, who's helped lead a number of the work days and been very helpful in terms of coordinating volunteers. She serves on the Land Stewardship Subcommittee and lives in town. And also John Naturally, who serves on the Conservation Commission and town resident, and has done a phenomenal amount of work for us, both on the Oyster River Forest, but particularly with the Thompson Forest. Couldn't have done a lot of the trail work without John. He has a tractor, and he's been out there hours and hours and hours and hours. I'm not sure how many he's put in this spring, but it's a lot. So I really just wanted to acknowledge them for that. So thank you. Okay, so the last, one more thing I wanted to mention about, is that my funding request? I have to remember what I'm asking for. So you may know that in Durham you can't hunt down town lands except for the Oyster River Forest, because that was funded by LCHIP, which requires that you allow hunting. So we are going to put some signage on the kiosk at Oyster River Forest this fall to mostly alert people who aren't hunting, to say, hunting is allowed, so you should be, alert to that, wear orange. The Thompson Forest, it sounds like some people were hunting on the Thompson Forest last fall, perhaps, and it may be because it used to be private land and people don't know whose land it is, and in New Hampshire, if it's not posted, it's a little fuzzy because Durham has an ordinance that says no hunting, but if you're not from Durham and it's not posted, then it's a little confusing. So, and we've been requested by some of the neighbors to post the property so that people know that they can't hunt. So I'm working on a couple of things. This one, I've been trying to find signs that just say no hunting, and it's amazing. They say all sorts of things, and mostly they refer to private property. They say posted no trespassing or no hunting and all this stuff, so we don't want that. So this one I think I can laminate and put on the kiosk. It just says no hunting on Thompson Forest. But I think we may still need to post some signs along the road. And this one says no trespassing. The sign place where we get a lot of signs is called Voss Signs, and there is one that says posted no hunting, so we can get that. I'd rather it just say no hunting. The big posted part of it
That means
is
you
not
can't go there.
terribly appealing. Yeah, well, but, so, the problem is, this is the sign that they make, and if you want a custom sign that says no hunt,
Is it
just
that
no.
big?
It would be
big.
about this big. It would be
Yeah.
slightly bigger than that, actually. But it would say either posted no hunting, or, which would be like $1.75 a sign, which isn't too bad. But if we want to make our own, to just say no hunting, it's like $4, and it's really expensive.
Well, how many do you need?
Well,
Enough
To
for
get
the
that-
perimeter.
price, you need 25. You have to buy 25.
Well,
Okay, so you're talking 100.
But I was
100
thinking we
bucks.
would just put it on Wednesday Hill Road, so we need like,
I would check with the state law
No, I know,
regarding
it's,
what
it's
proper
technically,
posting
it's
means.
every 50 feet, but do
Yeah.
we really want to put these kind of signs every 50 feet on town? That's like every town property would need those if we wanted to do every property, but, so, just looking for your thoughts on,
What happened with the Oyster River, signs that went, Oyster River Forest signs? The green ones,
the property signs?
yeah, that went all the way around the
They're
prop-
still there, they're supposed to be still there.
Yeah,
But those are just saying that they're conserved by,
yeah, there was a, they changed the name of the, I guess it was, what was it before Oyster River?
it was Spruce Woods or,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I got the signs made up and they weren't that expensive.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
that's a
know
little
how-
sign, this is so this is, you know, this would have to be sort of big, you can't
I
just
know,
put like
I
a
know.
little thing that says no hunting, so we either have to, keep looking to see if there's something that, you know, and there probably will be more signs available in the fall when hunting season, you know, even hardware stores sometimes, but I think a lot of them are gonna say posted
Posted.
no hunting, rather than just saying no hunting. Technically, I think you're right, you know, if you talk to the state, if it's your own land and you wanna post it, you're supposed to do it every 50 feet, and it's supposed to say posted, no hunting, and,
I understand why, you know, definitely the roads, but you also have to consider where else the hunters might be coming from.
The
So
river.
if
Yeah.
they are, if there are trails that come from
yeah.
other, you know, neighboring parcels, those would need to be
Yeah.
posted.
Well,
as
there wouldn't, I mean, a lot of it is residential.
Well, there's actually, it's, on the one side, it's the water supply road, so people might park, so we would have
Oh,
to
yeah.
probably do it
That
along
area,
there.
Definitely.
The other's the river, which unlikely that people are gonna necessarily boat down and walk in, and then one side's the Thompson family. So, there's not too many, but, this is probably the property that particularly needs it, just because I think people have been out there hunting. So, do we have any consensus?
It
on-
definitely should not say posted, because, I mean, it's, you want people to access the property.
Yeah, to me, I think people will think you're not supposed to go on the
Right.
property.
Maybe access permitted,
Or no hunting, town property,
Yeah.
or, per town of Durham,
Ordinance,
and maybe,
small letters.
refer the
No
ordinance.
hunting,
You know, I-
Thompson Forest,
Yeah,
Durham ordinance.
I know,
Well, if we're thinking that there might be needed on other town lands, then it might be something better to keep it more generic for the towns so that the signs,
Yeah.
that makes good sense.
Yeah. no hunting per, yeah, okay.
you know, town property.
You could have a few signs at major entrances that this is the
Yeah.
Thompson.
Yeah.
and even if it was, I mean, I know there's probably not a ton of money out there, but $4 a sign, you know, 25 signs, it's only $100.
Yeah. Um,
And then you have the verbiage that you need, and you could use them on other town properties as
Okay.
well.
All right, I'll research it some more. It sounds like we need a custom sign, to avoid the posted part, which I agree with. I'm not too keen on that, so.
Does the town have, other resources for signage, for acquiring signage?
For printing?
For printing or where they get their signs from?
We use, Infinite Imaging and Portsmouth Sign, but these kinds of signs are, this Voss sign, these are more, I don't know if those two entities make, I think they would be the same. They wouldn't be any cheaper. These guys specialize in these kinds of signs. They made the, conservation easement boundary sign we made, and
Oh, would they be metal, or would they be the hard
it could be
plastic?
either, you can do aluminum or the hard plastic.
And the aluminum's probably more expensive.
No, actually, it was slightly
Doesn't
cheaper.
that
Oh, is
hard
it really?
plastic degrade with UV?
Yeah, I mean, I think part
They
of
do
it is,
fade, yeah.
usually the aluminum lasts longer, so you pay a little more, but they last like 5 more years or something, so. I'll research the cost again and see what we can come up with.
We're using Portsmouth sign for the police station.
Yeah,
You could try them,
Yeah.
just as another
yeah,
price.
I can see once we decide what we want.
I was using someone up at Winnipesaukee.
Yeah.
I wonder if the school has anything, any of their programs with, of course, it's getting to the end of the school year, but
Yeah, I mean, these guys are, I think this is what sign costs, if you're gonna do especially if you're gonna do a custom sign, it's a little bit more, so. All right, so, thank you for that. So I've got some funding requests, if you're willing to entertain. I don't know if you got, Deb, your accountant has been sending now a spreadsheet of the funds that you're involved with. If you're not familiar with it, it's a great spreadsheet, and I think I don't know if she sent it this month, but anyway, it's not totally necessary to have it for tonight, but.
I thought I had it.
So one of the funds is called the Oyster River Forest Trails Expendable Trust Fund, which is the one that was established specifically for trails at Oyster River Forest, and it's, there was about $30,000 originally from private donations, and it's been most of it has been expended. There's about, as far as I know, there's about $1,700 left. So I have a couple funding requests from that fund, which you are authorized to approve if you're willing to approve. You're the ones to expend money from that fund. The first one is to authorize up to $60 for some additional directional trail signs. These are the blue signs that you already paid for a bunch of these, but they fixed up another trail segment and they needed like 3 or 4 more. And that would be up to $60 for that, for the Oyster River Forest Trail. You want to do one at a time?
Sure. And,
Yep.
and if no one objects or you want to ask, what I can do is make the motion, and then we can have additional discussion if you have questions, and then we can vote on it. So I'll make the motion. I have them here. I motion to authorize expenditure of up to $60 from the Oyster River Forest Trails Expendable Trust Fund for additional directional trail signs for the Oyster River Forest Trail.
I second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so the next one will take a little bit. So if you've been out to the Oyster River Forest, you park and you walk, it's about a half mile and you'll get to the field where we've been doing a lot of management, and the trail has been greatly improved. There's the trail through the field, and it goes over the tributary and then through the field again and up into the woods. And what we want to do, we feel that that trail through the field should be mowed, and there's actually another little leg in the field as well. And we feel the trail should be mowed, you know, every couple weeks or so during the growing season, because if not, it's going to get tall and people are going to get ticks, and it's not a very appealing situation, and it's a beautiful trail, and people are really using it a lot. So I actually spoke with John, naturally, who has the tractor, and he has a mower, a regular mower on his tractor, and a brush hog. And he actually did a lot of the original work out there last year just to even clear some of the trail. So he had expressed a willingness to do some of that. So I talked to the Land Stewardship Subcommittee whether we would be willing to request from you $500 from the Oyster River Forest Trails Fund, the same fund, to pay John to mow the trail through the field and any related brush hogging, because he's probably going to want to brush back. He's going to brush back the trail a little bit so it doesn't grow in. Every couple weeks during the growing season. So I figured that's about 10 visits, and it's about a half mile to 3/4 miles of trail. And he's also doing a little brush hogging in another area. And we're asking that he would keep track of his hours and his methods. In other words, how wide is he mowing, so that by end of this first season, this is sort of a pilot, we'd know, okay, if it's 100 hours, if you were going to hire a contractor, you know, we're talking $1,000 or $2,000, whatever, because Mike Lynch was at the meeting on Tuesday, and he felt $500 was, like, you're never going to get anybody to do it for $500, so we're not paying above, or, you know, because he's a member of the Conservation Commission. So we feel this is sort of a token amount to,
Pay for
I mean,
gas.
it's a fair amount, but it's a token amount in terms of probably how much it would cost to get a consultant to go there, drive their tractor all the way in, and so forth. So we are presenting this to you to see if you would authorize this expenditure of $500.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
I mean, I run out there routinely. I was there Wednesday, coming from College Woods. I mean, it's such a beautiful field, and I've run through it before the bridge was there over the
Yeah,
tributary,
no, it's
and
really improved.
before it was ever mowed, and you're basically breaking trail. But it's so nice now.
How wide is it? How wide is the trail?
So the trail through the field, the first part is, for the first part of the field before you cross the tributary is really like an old farm road. So it's like a woods road, but it's in the field. So that would probably be maintained that way.
Is it like 4 feet?
No,
it's
it's
probably
8
8
to
or-
10 feet
yeah.
probably wide.
And it's got ruts, kind of.
Yeah.
And before you take the right to go over the tributary bridge.
So you could cross-country ski it.
Oh, absolutely, and we're clearing another, once you get to the field, on the left side, it's a little bit sloped, and we've done some shrub planting in there, but along the perimeter of that, it goes up to a beautiful stone wall along the boundary, incredible trees, and then it would come down, and he's gonna mow that as well.
Yeah, that's
So-
probably at least 4 feet, 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah, so he would probably, I think the main field road, he would do probably the 8 feet wide. Those would probably be like a 4 foot, and then when you cross the tributary, it narrows down again, and that would probably be a 4 foot. But if we think it should be wider, that we could think about that. But the idea is that he's gonna do it and see what the time commitment is and how hard it is, so.
So, as before, I'll make the motion, and then we can have any additional discussion if necessary. So I move to authorize expenditure of $500 from the Oyster River Forest Trails Expendable Trust Fund for mowing of the trails through the field and related brush mowing at the Oyster River Forest from now until early fall.
I second it.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Thank you. Okay, two things from your Conservation Commission fund, which according to my notes, you have about $57,000 in the fund, just, I'm not asking for too much. So, back at the Thompson Forest, the reason we're using this fund, because the next two are for the Thompson Forest, and that other fund was just for Oyster River Forest, so. So at the Thompson Forest, we need a few more pressure-treated posts. Some, for these new signs, I mentioned the dog sign, so that, what I'm thinking is, it'll be this size. When you walk in, there'll be another post, and it'll be mounted right there. So when you walk in, you can't miss it either way. And I also, I mentioned the dogs running on the private property. I think it might be nice to have, that's really the only boundary where we abut a private property, because you really can't go over on the public water supply road anyway, and that's where there's another residence. So I thought it might be good to have a sign there that says, please respect private property and stay on the trail, which is what people are supposed to do anyway, but it's really open over there right now. Anyway, so 4 pressure-treated posts and hardware, 4 sign posts at the Thompson Forest, so up to $60 for that. Because posts are like $11 or, so it probably won't be that much, but I just, rather than being a little under, I just said up to $60. So the way it works is we'll, be actually at cost, so it'll be whatever we have to pay for the posts and the hardware. Make sense?
Yeah.
Explain that. Well-
I'll make a motion on both of them at the same time.
Okay, so let me do the other one. So the other one is for the actual signs. So I actually have one change, because I said $100, and I just got a quote from Infinite Imaging, and I think they're $52. So I said up to $110 for making the actual signs, and this would be done at Infinite Imaging. So again, on the metal, the aluminum signs we usually make. So that's up to $110 for 2 signs at Thompson Forest.
Did you forget the screws?
No, I put that in the other one. I already have some from last vote. I have enough screws.
Okay, I'll move to authorize expenditure of up to $60 from the Conservation Commission Fund for 4 pressure-treated posts and hardware as signpost at Thompson Forest, and to authorize expenditure of up to $110 from the Conservation Commission Fund for 2 signs at Thompson Forest, one related to dogs and one related to staying off abutting private property.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for me, I think.
Thank you very much. Okay, item number 9, other business. We have, first was officers for the commission. Well, since we have 4 our chair, Administrator Selig, is currently not here. No. And 4 regular members are currently, I think we're gonna continue that until next time. We'll talk about if anyone wants to take over the chairmanship of the Conservation Commission. And honestly, I don't know next month if Administrator Selig is gonna chair again, or will it be me as the vice chair?
Well, gee, Andy, you're doing an awfully good
So-
job.
Yeah,
So I probably made the mistake of volunteering to be the vice chair, but I'm a Boy Scout. And you know.
One thing that we, at the planning board meeting last night, we had a very good discussion about this. Paul.
I was watching it.
Was reelected chair, but Paul, I'm just, if you don't mind my speaking for you, but Paul, has to miss some meetings because of work, and Barbara Dill is the vice chair, and so we have a very good arrangement that Paul needs to miss some meetings. That's the way it is. Everybody's busy. All the boards deal with this. And Barbara is well set up. Whenever Paul needs to be away, that's fine. She'll just step in. So it's almost a partnership. And I think if there's another person on the Conservation Commission that would be willing to be the vice chair, and if you were willing to be the chair, understanding that whenever you need to be away, so be it, it's almost a partnership and the vice chair can just
Yeah.
step in.
See, the reason I accepted the vice chair position is because I was hoping to encourage one of the
You want to be the backup.
I
Wanna be the
said that I would be the backup to fill in one of the regular members' I'm the town council representative. And I don't know as I should be the chair of the Conservation Commission. I mean, there's a lot of folks that sit around the table that have a lot of experience with regards to, that's what they do in their job. They're smart about it. I mean, I can run a meeting, but with regards to, I do what people tell me to do. This stuff is kind of like being on the planning board, so it's
Well,
kind of old
being the
hat.
chair, hopefully, actually, is not a lot of time.
Well,
So the main thing is to facilitate the meeting, and, there's a little bit of preparation before, but
yeah, that was my concern, because again, I'm a town councilor, and it would probably be unprecedented for a town councilor to be a chair of a board or commission, because I am a town council representative. And again, I don't mind being the vice chair and fill in when the chair is not here. But there are a number of additional agenda setting. I'm also on the board of 3 nonprofits, so I have a busy schedule. I'm sure everyone's busy.
I
but-
should know the answer to this, but whether alternates can be an officer.
I don't think so.
They
No.
can- they cannot
They
be
not on the
officers.
planning board. I know that, I remember reading that, the RSA on that, so.
Yeah,
It's not allowed for the planning board. I doubt it's. allowed
Yeah,
for the-
I don't think they can, because we have addressed that before. And again, I wouldn't say Paul should not be the chair either, because, he has his,
Yeah. I'm
Plate
just
is
wondering, I
full.
can check, see if I can find anything in the RSA's. I know where the planning board alternates cannot. Do you know that applies to the Conservation Commission as well?
I don't know,
I'll see
I don't
if
know
can
for a
find,
fact,
and
but.
for what it's worth.
And maybe one of the other 4 with me saying that I would back them up in the event of, they're 4 of them are traveling for work this week, so I'm sure it's gonna happen. And again, I don't mind chairing the meeting, but, I have a nasty habit of volunteering. I'm not gonna volunteer this time to be the chair. But I may be sitting here every month anyways, regardless. So we'll talk about that next month, and maybe one of the 4 folks would have time, or they would take over the chairmanship with me as the backup.
Well, I plan on coming to the Conservation Commission meeting. I usually don't, but I plan to come to the meetings as long as needed, if you, until you get a chair and things are up and running.
Well,
fine.
you're absolutely value added with stuff like this, because this is, a lot of these items will eventually be going to the planning board, so it certainly helps. I guess when we don't have items such as this, you may not have to.
Yeah, and I can help do the agenda and prepare for the meeting and all that stuff, too.
And in the past, did you do the agenda or Karen?
No, I think it was the chair who would
So-
work with Jen Berry.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rob did,
Okay, he did the agenda.
yeah. And he was doing a lot of outside work as well, I think.
Yeah, I think the chair, additional meetings and, okay.
So
Let's continue that till next month,
yeah,
unless someone wants to volunteer to be the chair.
no, I didn't want to volunteer. I'm on another committee, the Energy Committee, and I was almost gonna just switch because I had been on this commission for a long time. But I thought that when I found out Rob was leaving, I thought maybe I should stay on because there seemed to be a lot of turnover in addition to Rob.
Right.
One of the new guys left, and then the other people travel a lot, so.
And turnover on the Energy Committee as well.
Yeah, I know, and both committees are in the same boat,
Yeah.
commissions, committees, whatever.
There's, planning board sort of has seen a lot of that too in the
Yeah.
last year, so.
So the last item under other businesses, and I don't even know if we need to discuss this, the 44 Colony Cove 1 piling. You had sent that and said we
Yeah.
may not need to discuss that.
No, you don't need to, it was just Malcolm and Vi McNeil on Colony Cove are really just doing a permit by notification for a very minor replacement of one piling.
But this particular, one of them was for 2 pilings
Oh, is it?
replacement that we,
That was for their dock?
Yeah, the only reason the others have come to you is they were also permit by notification, but they wanted to get turnaround in 10 days from DES.
Oh.
If you don't get any comments from the commission, it's 30 days.
Okay.
And with Malcolm McNeil's timing, with this meeting, it wasn't even worth it. So I just sent this to the attention of the Conservation Commission, just in case you wanted to submit any comments to DES, which you may do.
right, knowing what I know about piling replacement after 7 years on the planning board and then what we've gone through the last couple months, I have no comments.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else would like to
Well,
comment.
I know their dock because we used to row by it. It's very close to the shoreline. And it's right before the islands after you go around the bend. It's the next property over from what was it, Langley?
Yes, yeah.
So it's the one that has a big, I don't know, shield that comes down for their windows, storm shield or whatever.
So, Michael, are you signing?
No, I don't even need to
you
sign
don't
it.
even need to.
It's,
Okay.
you don't have to make any comments, but
Okay.
I just, in case you did, you have the opportunity.
In the context of what we've seen tonight, it's, one piling is nothing, really. And it's not like it's a big, long pier. The dock is right close to shore.
And they're having Pickering or whoever do it, or are they doing it themselves?
Yeah, I have it here.
I don't know. if it's-
Actually, I only have the wetland permit by notification, but it doesn't,
The engineering company did
I don't think it
also?
mentions who will be doing it.
it just says
Is there anybody else that
applicant.
does it other than Pickering?
There's
in this
nothing in
area?
authorized agent. Usually, like Ambient Engineering was an authorized agent on the other one. This one is blank.
That's why I'm wondering if they're just thinking they're gonna do it themselves or something.
I doubt it.
Yeah. The sledgehammer.
I don't know the people involved, but
No,
No,
Malcolm's,
no, they're not gonna
Malcolm
do
is
it
an
themselves.
attorney.
Okay.
He probably won't be doing it himself.
Retired attorney.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be on here who's doing it. But again, if we don't have to, yeah, I'm fine. So, any additional comments? If not, I will take a motion to adjourn.
move to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?